As if things couldn't get any worse for Ubisoft, Expedition 33's director is blaming Ubisoft for killing his passion and ultimately leaving Ubisoft because of boredom. And I wish I was making this up, but holy crap, things just keep getting funnier when it comes to Ubisoft. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Ubisoft has let the rising star Guillemot Broche walk out the door and become the director of Sandfall Studios and what looks to be 2025's Game of the Year, at least for me. At this point, the more I play it, the more it separates itself from everything else. And during a recent interview with the BBC, it came out that Guillemot Broche said that he was simply bored in his job and wanted to do something different, which you could take one of two ways. One, yeah, he was bored because Ubisoft wasn't giving him enough work, or he saw the writing on the wall of Ubisoft going down the road of DEI and all the agenda-filled games that they kept pushing, and he said, yeah, you know what? This place really isn't for me. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking down how the director of Expedition 33 was interviewed by the BBC and the things he had to say about Ubisoft weren't great. In an industry that is flooded with extreme bloated budgets and soulless reboot after Heartless re-release, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 bursted onto the scene like a breath of fresh air. Developed by a hungry and widely talented team of just 33 developers over at Sandfall Interactive, the game has taken 2025 by storm, seemingly out of nowhere, earning rave reviews, topping sales charts, and even gaining attention from France's president. But what makes this story even more crazy is the origin. Get ready for this. It was born out of boredom of working at Ubisoft and built on the kind of raw passion that AAA publishers have long since lost for the better part of the last decade so or longer. And now we find ourselves seeing the reason why. The director himself stood up and said, you know what? This place just isn't for me anymore. Director Guillemot Broche told the BBC that he simply was bored in his job and wanted to do something different. And that was a quote directly from him. So during the pandemic back in 2020, he decided to chase his wild dream, creating a game inspired by his childhood love of Final Fantasy. He began cold calling and messaging people, from voice actors to collaborators found on Reddit and other internet forums, and basically searching far and wide for people that had a passion to put a fantastic game together. He was pushing aside all the DEI nonsense and the BS that gets put into all these resumes and, oh, I've worked here and I've done this for X amount of years, so I can do this, when in reality, none of that matters when it comes to creativity and passion. It has to do with the talent. Amazing what happens when you get rid of the DEI in hiring decisions. One of his first recruits, Jennifer Svedberg-Yen, originally auditioned for a free demo as a voice actor and instead ended up as the game's lead writer. Composer Lurian Tessard was discovered on SoundCloud, and he was someone who never worked in the games industry before. Jennifer told the BBC, I call this the Guillemot effect. He's very good at finding really cool people. Guillemot, being the humble guy that he is, chalks it up to massive luck. But there's no denying that his eye for talent and leadership inspired a team of 33 people to outperform studios that are over 100 times the size of what his team was put together. And this is Exhibit A for how to make a game properly without injecting bloat. It's actually incredibly simple when you take a step back from it. And you gotta imagine Ubisoft seeing this guy walk out the door and what came from it with his own studio, they gotta be kicking themselves right now. And I'll talk about this in a little bit, but we want to touch on the pricing structure of this game being MSRP USD of $50. In context of seeing the entire game industry raising the prices upwards of $80 or potentially even more moving forward, and they try to justify those costs with, oh, development is getting more expensive and inflation and tariffs and all these other random excuses, then why can Sandfall Interactive put out one of the best games I've played for $50? Makes you wonder. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of other people feel the same way about this game. In fact, it is selling like crazy right now. Expedition 33 is, without any exaggeration, my game of the year for 2025. And like I said earlier, the more I'm playing it, the more it separates itself from the pack. It's an unforgettable turn-based RPG drenched in 19th century French aesthetics, blending tight storytelling, stunning visuals, and incredibly beautiful soundtrack. The kind of soundtrack that's so good that I find myself playing it when I'm driving my kids to basketball practice or gymnastics tryouts. It's basically, I play it all the time. I can't get it out of my mind right now. It's such good music.
Soon she'll wake and paint again. Paint a new number.
Its core premise is a world where people vanish once their age number is painted away by a supernatural entity. It feels both mythic and uniquely grounded. It's original enough, and to be at a point where I would say it's rare for a game to feel this handcrafted, yet so technically refined. And you could tell me that this game was made by a massive team of 500 people, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess it makes sense because that much work goes into making this game feel so polished. Then when you find out it's 33 people, you gotta be like, why do those other companies have 500 people? Costing hundreds of thousands upon millions and millions of dollars, sometimes reaching upwards of $300+ million, and sometimes some games reaching over $800 million reportedly or rumored just to get the game out the door. What the hell is costing them so much? And at the end of the day, are they even that good and making up the sales to get the money back? And nearly every single time, the answer is always nope. Pirate Nation on X said, Expedition 33 already outgrossed Assassin's Creed Shadows' total 6-week Steam revenue in its second week, despite costing $20 less. You can buy Expedition 33 on the launch week for 10% off, I think, on Steam, which was like $45 USD. For a brand new game that, again, is looking to be many people's game of the year for close to half the price of a modern AAA title. And I'd be hard-pressed to find any differences between what a AAA, or in Ubisoft's case, quadruple A title has over Clair Obscur. And that brings me to Ubisoft. How does a company with nearly 20,000 employees, billion-dollar budgets, and decades of institutional knowledge let someone like Guillaume Broche slip through the cracks? The answer is surprisingly simple. Ubisoft no longer recognizes or respects raw creative vision. They bury that important characteristic under layers of bureaucracy, live service mandates, and most notably, DEI checklists. Guillaume wasn't asking for the moon. No, not even close to that. He just wanted a chance to make a game with heart, and instead of empowering him to do so, Ubisoft made him bored. Almost like, hey, yeah, cool idea you got there, but we're going to need you to work on this other stuff that we decided because it implements the things that have the DEI characteristics that our company stands for. And again, Ubisoft's got to be kicking themselves. Seriously, they had this level of talent in-house and let it walk away to build this masterpiece from scratch for nothing. And that, more than any financial loss or PR scandal, should absolutely terrify them for the future. Because Expedition 33 isn't just a hit, it's a legitimate Game of the Year contender. A reminder that real creativity doesn't need these 500 or 800 plus people teams working on a game, getting a bloated trailer together and all this marketing behind it. No, it needs vision, trust, and the willingness to break the mold that was established previously. The same mold that Ubisoft continues to fall into, where gamers keep rejecting it time and time again. Guillaume told the BBC, "We have, I think, an amazing team, mostly of junior people, but they are so incredibly invested in the project and talented. Somehow it worked, which still makes no sense to me after all these years." But I would argue, ironically, it makes perfect sense to anybody that actually plays video games and realizes that the games that actually matter and the good games that are out there are built off of the passion and talent it takes, removing all the restrictions, all the red tape, and all the, oh, you're not allowed to do this because it might offend this person, or this person says this about that, and oh my God, what's going to happen if you do this decision when it flies in the face of the established medium and norms? You can't do that anymore. Clair Expedition proves that, yeah, actually, that's what works. And the fact that Guillemot left Ubisoft to create this game and studio makes it that much sweeter. Because when it gets to the forefront that diversity, equity, and inclusion being at the forefront of your company ends up destroying the products that are being made, ultimately, at some point, I'd like to think investors who are injecting the money into these companies are going to think twice, and ultimately, the downfall of DEI comes with the lack of funding and a return to norms. And this should be Exhibit A for what other companies are pointing to make better games moving forward. So, in a certain light, I think in addition to being one of the greatest games I've played this year, if not the best, it also pushes other publishers and developers to make games even better. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link this in the description below. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
There's been a lot of discussion recently about the price of games off the back of Nintendo Switch 2 announcement, this game is not only going to be on Game Pass, but it's also listed for around £40 for the standard edition in the UK. How are you able to make something that looks like this so affordable?
Yeah, I think it comes down to your previous question of like, how do you make something with a team so small?
Yeah.
Like, we are not a big game, despite what it looks like. Like, we are still like a first game from a new studio based in France. We're like 30 people. So like, we wanted to reflect that also on the pricing. And yeah, I know that prices are going up. And to be honest, it's kind of a weird side effect of like, we are included in the debate with Nintendo announcing their game like being higher priced. But definitely, like, we wanted the players who buy this game to know that it's a small team behind it, and it really reflects our values also. Like, we want as many people to discover the game as possible.
Smash